Hi, Deepinder.
Platform and opportunity to share my understanding with the parents and teachers and others who will be connected today on this session. Thank you so much. So before I begin, I would like to just give a brief introduction about myself. I am a child psychologist and rehabilitation counselor, and I have been working with children since 1997. So I started as a teacher, but soon I took a sabbatical and diversified into child psychology and other related areas of work. And so far, my client base is spread over UK, USA, Singapore, Australia, and Shanghai, and of course, pan-India. I have a lot of clients who are in rural areas as well. So you would be wondering how I connect with them. So everybody has a smartphone and we do a lot of FaceTime. I have an experience of working with children and doing teacher training for more than 20 years now with a lot of prestigious schools of Delhi and NCR. And to name a few, it's Sri Ram School, Malsari Avenue, a lot of branches of DPS schools, Salvan Public School, etc. Plus, I'm on the panel of a number of schools for doing evaluation and assessments. So I have worked with Fortis Hospital, Vasant Kunj for 5 years. And currently I'm at the Indian Spinal Injury Center as a child psychologist. And I am also a resource person for various government institutes like NIPSID and HIPAA and Action for Autism. So in the quest of excellence, I am now about to submit my PhD from NIPA, which is under the Ministry of Human Resource and Development. So this is a brief about me and about my work. So where will I be able to help? Now, this is a very important question. I will be able to help in doing assessments and evaluation for any scholastic delays or emotional issues. So CBSE has a guideline that RCI trained professionals only are able to do these assessments. So I have an RCI registration number. Once the assessment has been done, the intervention is planned as per the need of the child, whether it is academic based on occupational therapy, psychotherapy, etc., whatever is the need of the child. Apart from academic remediation, teacher training, we do a lot of parental training as well. Because where there is a child, it involves the whole family, it involves the extended family. So we do a lot of hand-holding with parents. We do a lot of hand-holding in case there are first-generation learners and parents are not able to teach their children. So we do hand-holding with the tutors as well. That is a part and parcel of our work because holistic development is what I believe in for the children. Along with that, academic remediation, I do have certain children who are extremely brilliant. So we do skill development with them as far as English is concerned, vocabulary building, creative writing, etc. Also, an important part of my work is communication development of children who are on the spectrum with autism. So I do communication skills development with them, and we've had a couple of successful cases. So today's presentation is going to be actually based on real life experiences, on a lot of case studies, which I'm going to be presenting. And this is divided into two parts. It's going to be about adolescents, about teenagers, as well as about younger children, so that the entire spectrum is covered. So to begin with, the most important question at the parent-teacher meeting, which a parent asks the teacher, how is my child performing? So now before asking the teacher, how is my child performing, you need to ask yourself, how is my child performing? Is it that am I satisfied with his or her result? Was it as per me and my child's expectation? Did my child put in all the effort required? If my child did put in all the effort and I put in all the effort required, yet there was a gap between the input and between the output, why is it that there was a gap? And what is it that I am expecting now? So this is an important question which every parent needs to ask themselves. So let's try and understand some reasons why the gap in the classroom could be. So one is a very, very common reason, which is faulty study habits. We do observe a lot of children who are sitting with headphones on their head and they are listening to music and yet they're trying to do their homework. Although there are some teachers who say that, okay, there are multiple ways of learning, but definitely when you are understanding a difficult concept, the concentration needs to be there. So this definitely is not the correct way. The other is mobile phones. So these days what is happening is a lot of work is coming on mobile phones, and we have online classes, of course. But even when the schools were on, at that time, if a child had a lot of work which was left in school, the incomplete classwork, so there are a lot of WhatsApp groups which are made, and parents get the homework on WhatsApp and they share the phone with the child. So the mother would probably give the phone to the child and go about doing her work. Now, whether the child is looking at what is actually relevant or is just sifting through the mother's phone is another big question mark. So mobile phones, that is as far as small children are concerned, and for teenagers, an addiction to mobile phones is really hampering their ability to study. The next would be, daydreaming, which is a very common factor and phenomena which we see in children. If they are really bored with the subject, they would go into their own dream world. Improper studying time and space. So this I would like to highlight that here we have 3 children who are watching their favorite cartoon. And that is the time when mama decides that suddenly, my work is now over and now I have time to teach my child. So she would say, ki, come bacha, come, let's come and study. Now, why would a child want to leave the cartoon at that point of time? So it would be an effort, dragging the child, taking the child, away from the TV. So here is where, the mother needs to understand that she needs to modify her schedule so that she's not interrupting the child's cartoon. Another factor is when we have guests over at home and there's a wonderful match going on and the parent has made a schedule for the child, which at the match time is coinciding with the child's study time. I am sure the child will not be interested in studying at all and would want to be apart. So you can always alter the guests coming home, which is not coinciding with the time of the study. Lying down and studying. A very, very common phenomena which we see in children when they say, no, I'm relaxing, I'm understanding, I'm trying to study. But when you are lying down and studying, definitely in your comfort zone, it's better you read a novel rather than try to do your homework or try to do a math sum. Then mama wants help. Mama definitely wants help. And these days in lockdown, mother feels that, oh, my children are just not helping me. And that is the time when, the child would feel, ki, nahi, it's time for me to study. And that is exactly the time when mama says, ki, no, you come and help me in the kitchen. So here is where we need to find some kind of a solution to, where we need to fit in the child's time. So these could be some improper studying time and space. What we forget is an important reason why a child is not performing, that the child is actually not able to understand the concept in the class. Normally, what I have seen in a lot of households is that parents, they have a strict timetable for the children. They'll make a child sit down, study, and whether the child is understanding or the child is not understanding is not the criteria on which the parenting is based. They want that kyun nahi padh raha hai, kyun nahi kar raha hai, or at the PTM, the parent would tell the teacher ki ma'am, but he sits for the whole day and yet he is not able to score. So maybe he's actually not understanding what the teacher is trying to teach. So there could be multiple reasons. There could be a very strict teacher. There could be strict parents, and with strict parents come unrealistic expectations. And when we have unrealistic expectations from our children and children are not able to fulfill those expectations, it leads to a lot of low self-esteem. Or there could just be an underlying medical reason. So what do we do? First and most important is we need to identify the reason. What is the reason that my child is not able to study? Is it a physical reason? When I say, is it a physical reason? Is it that because, is my child having a power? Is the child's hearing okay? Is there any other physical reason which would be hampering my child's ability? Or is there any emotional reason? Is it that the child is being bullied in class? Is it that, there is something which is going on in a child's mind which is not letting him or her study? Or is it a psychological reason? Or is it any undiagnosed underlying disability? So what are we supposed to do? Once we understand what the reasons are, if it is a physical reason, we consult the required doctor, obviously. If it is an emotional reason, we talk to the school. The school counselors are there. We talk to the teachers. And of course, if need be, we even collaborate with the principal and get the principal into the picture. Psychological reason, you seek professional help. Underlying disorders, again, seek professional help. And finally, once we have understood what is the reason why our child is not performing, we start working towards a solution. So here I want to address the parents of teenagers and adolescents. So most common complaints which I get when parents come to me are, oh ma'am, my child is least interested in studies, just does not listen and treats the parents like fools. It's totally a night bird, awake the whole night but sleeping in the day. Never fulfilling demands. Ye chahiye, wo chahiye, bahut brand conscious hai. Thinks that friends know the best. Unhi ko imitate karna hai all the time, and there is no respect for parents. Oh my God, dressing sense is atrocious, and so on and so forth. So if there are any parents of teenagers listening to this, I'm sure this would be a very common complaint which most of the parents have. So what exactly is adolescence? It's a time of confusion, total confusion, wanting independence. They want to do exactly what they want to do, wanting freedom. They don't want to adhere to any rules. They don't want to come home at curfew time, and they just want to do what they want to do. Rebellion. If you say turn to the right, they will say, no, left is better, and I will go to the left. So let's understand, what is it? So for sure, some behaviors are very natural and they are bound to happen, because teenage brain is developing very fast and they want to see the world from their own eyes. And trust you me, it's absolutely okay. Remember, you too were teenagers at one point of time, but now we feel कि नहीं मैम हमने गलती की है, इसीलिए हम अपने बच्चों को सुधार रहे हैं. हमें मालूम है कि क्या होने वाला है. So we are trying to teach our children, but trust you me, they don't want to learn like that. They want to learn it their way because they too have an intelligent brain and they feel कि no, our parents were old times, old generation. Ma'am, what do they know? उस time पे क्या होता था? So what is it that we need to remember? Well, we need to remember pulao, which all mummies love to make. And I'll just tell you what is pulao. Pulao is you need to pause, you need to understand, you need to listen, you need to assess, and you need to be absolutely open-minded, because there is a story behind every child, behind every mind, and behind every person, which we need to remember. So we need to be a parent and we do not need to be a detective. I've had children who've come and told me कि ma'am, you know what my father does? वो मैं रात को सोता हूँ, मैं कहता हूँ मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ, पर वो क्या करते हैं, वो चुपके से आके मेरा दरवाजा खोल देते हैं. भाई आप शर्लॉक होम्स नहीं हो, आप एक parent बनिए. Have realistic expectations and goal settings. You may all want your child to be Einstein, but there could be a person who would want to be Mr. Bachchan as well. So your teenager may be going through a very difficult time in his or her life, which you as a parent need to understand, and which I'm going to explain through a few case studies with what goes wrong and why as parents we are not able to understand. Before I proceed on to the case study, One most common complaint which I get of the teachers is, this is again, I'm talking when the children are entering class 6th, 7th, 8th onwards, कि ma'am concentration ही नहीं है, very troublesome children. Look at the handwriting, इतनी fast लिख रहा है, handwriting is poor. Parents are working and hence they are not paying attention. The most common which we tell कि yes, ये घर में कुछ parents कर ही नहीं रहे होंगे. Lack of discipline, parents ने कुछ नहीं सिखाया. Child is not keeping good company at all. Oh ma'am, he has bad friends. इसीलिए homework is not being submitted. Homework होता ही नहीं है. Copies नहीं school में आती. So this is a very common complaint which we get from the teachers. So before we address all these complaints, I would like to highlight the case study of Arjun. So Arjun was a youngster who was referred to me in class 9th. Now, before I begin the case studies, let me assure you all the names are fictitious, although the cases are absolutely true. So the reason for the referral was that the child was suspended from school for misconduct in behavior. So when there was misconduct in behavior, it was that the child was carrying alcohol in his water bottle and he was distributing alcohol to the friends. So the child was, obviously, it was a big hue and cry which happened, and the child was suspended from school. It was a big shame for the family because the parents were कि उसको school से suspend कर दिया, madam अब क्या करें? तो सबसे पहले बच्चे को मैं मिली. Now where is my role? That I met the child, and what came out of the whole story was that Arjun had very, very strict parents. So when I say strict parents, it is discipline, yes, but strict to the extent that, when a child comes and says something to a parent, the parent would rather not listen and make the child feel at fault or say कि नहीं तुम्हारी ही गलती है. अब उसको यही बोला कि तुम्हारी ही गलती है कि तुम अल्कोहल लेके गए, पिटाई भी हुई बेचारे की खूब कि तुमने पापा की कबर्ड से चुराई अल्कोहल और ले गए. अब वो हुआ क्या, बच्चा इतना डरा हुआ था that he had difficulty in confiding in his parents. Now, why he had difficulty in confiding? Because the parents were strict. So what had happened was that this child had been bullied in school in a game of truth or dare. I don't know if you parents are aware of it or not. There's a game called truth or dare that you are given a dare कि तुम ये करो, otherwise, so on and so forth. So in this game of truth and dare, this child was given a dare that he is going to carry the alcohol in his water bottle. So that is exactly what happened. Poor kid was so scared and he was carrying alcohol in the water bottle to school. And because he didn't have too many friends with whom he could share, अगर वो बताता तो वो पकड़ा जाता, तो और बच्चे उसको bully करते. So in the end क्या हुआ, वो बच्चा suspend हो गया. So what did we do now? We had to take the whole case in a very holistic manner, which was involving the child, the parents, and the school also had to be involved because now the people who had dared the child also had to be brought to task. Every school has got a bullying policy in which the children can be reprimanded or it has to be brought to the school's notice. So the child was very reluctant initially कि नहीं मैम मेरा क्या होगा. So मेरा क्या होगा तो हमें individual sessions बच्चे के साथ करने पड़े to teach him how to be assertive, to teach him how to say no, and to teach him not to get under peer pressure, which is extremely, extremely important. The class teachers were taken into confidence, the school counselor was involved, and it was a very holistic session. Obviously, we were working with the family as well for the parents to understand how they needed to change their outlook towards the child. And a mechanism was developed with the school whereby a complete monitoring was being done, and eventually Arjun went back to school. And this is the case study of DIYA. So class 11, the mother was very, very hassled. Mother came to me कि ma'am, DIYA doesn't want to go to school. पता नहीं क्या हो गया, खाना नहीं खा रही है बिल्कुल, कमरा बंद करके सोती रहती है. She is not able to concentrate at all. And when we are trying to open the door at night, she keeps the door shut at night. So we don't know what to do. So when the reality came out, it was that DIYA had a boyfriend in the same class. And she had a failed relationship with the classmate. So because of the failed relationship, she was being teased by her friends. Now, Mama knew about the boyfriend, but Mama said कि ऐसे थोड़ी होता है. अगर एक बॉयफ्रेंड के साथ कट्टी हो गई या नहीं हुई तो स्कूल थोड़ी जाना कोई बंद कर देता है. मगर आप अगर दिया का एंगल समझेंगे तो फॉर दिया इट वाज अ humongous thing because she was being teased by her friends because she was not getting the due respect what she wanted. Okay, it was a failed relationship and she was not able to cope with the stress at all. So how did we intervene? We did counseling on a one-on-one basis with the child, where we had to again give the child, she had a very low self-esteem, so we had to work on the self-esteem, we had to again work on a number of skills which the child was lacking, and the family therapy goes along. So what to do with my teenager? Again, I would say pause, understand, listen, assess, and be very open-minded. Love, understanding, patience. The key word here is patience, perseverance in patience, and some more patience, because it is definitely very difficult to handle teenagers and you require all the patience in the world to handle them. Take assistance and professional help when unable to handle. And remember, parents, teachers, or whoever is watching, it is okay to reach out. It is okay to ask for help when need be. So this is a case study of Amrita, which is a very common case study, which is, I've only presented Amrita, but there are a lot of children who are going through this. So the teachers were complaining that she's a very bright child, but she does not listen at all. She's too misbehaved. And she keeps hitting and pushing. So mind you, the teacher said कि मैम लड़की है फिर भी इतना hit करती है, push करती है. Classwork is incomplete. Why did she have to take up science if she could not understand anything in the class? And parents are complaining, ma'am, she's indisciplined. She does not listen to us. Classwork copy nahi karti. She does not want to study. Ma'am, what will she do? Boards are approaching. My goodness. One thing, board is a very big stressor for all our children. So now let's see what Amrita had to say. Amrita said, ma'am, there are too many expectations from teachers and parents. I don't understand anything at all in the class. I'm afraid to ask the teachers because they are too judgmental. Parents have no time for me since both the parents were working. If I go to my friends, they are absolutely uncooperative. वो मेरी help ही नहीं करते. Boards are approaching and ma'am, I want to run away because I cannot handle the pressure. So what was my role? My role was first to understand the reasons for why Amrita was lacking the interest in her studies. When we took the case study of the parents, both the parents were working and in a very high profile job. So the child in the smaller classes was in a creche because both the parents were working. So this is quite a common problem which all the parents in metropolitan are facing. But that's all right. The child was having an IQ of 118, which is of bright average. And she was an average student. Now, as per her, she was getting about 80% only. And the expectation now was a 95% and more. And if she wanted subjects of her choice. So she was almost hysterical and she was very panicky. So what did I do? Initially, I only listened to her outburst. I heard, and I only heard because there was nobody to whom the child could really talk. If you understand the underlying messages, the parents were uncooperative. See what Amrita has to say. My parents are uncooperative, have no time, sorry, and I have uncooperative friends. So I heard and I only heard. Then I had to give a lot of reassurance to the child and unconditional support that I would still be there to listen to her even if she did not succeed. So unconditional support is something which we really need to give to our children. Finally, gave her strategy to regain her lost confidence. So I'm going to be sharing some strategies with you, which can be shared with your children, with your adolescents. And these strategies, in fact, the parents can also imbibe if they wish. So what do we need to do at home? We need to do a self-analysis of our performance. And how do we analyze our performance? We use the report card. So the report card clearly tells us the subjects in which we are good, the subjects in which we are not good. And we as a child, we may think कि नहीं हमें पता है, but एक जब report card सामने आती है तो हमें clearly indicator मिल जाता है कि where are the subjects where we are not performing. So when you analyze your performance, you understand either, the concept is not clear, or you are not able to apply the concept. So it could either be lack of understanding or lack of application skills. Then you take your help accordingly. So when I take help, take help accordingly, it means from your tutor, from your teacher, whoever. Prioritize your tasks. Time management is one skill which is lacking in children because they don't know how to manage their time skills. I'm going to be sharing a sample of one child for this. Then we use multiple ways of understanding a concept. So understanding a concept is not only through your books, which we say कि book खोल लो, guide books ले आओ, बहुत सारी guides मिलती हैं, उसमें से study करो. नहीं. There are multiple ways in which you can understand a concept. You can use the YouTube. There are a lot of YouTube channels these days with a lot of concepts. You can use comic books. You can even do brainstorming with your friends as well as with your family members, with your parent who is teaching you. See, sometimes what happens is that when you read a concept, you may think you've understood the concept. But actually, when there's a lot of brainstorming happening and other people give their input, that is when you realize where your concept clarity is missing and how you could be not understanding. Very important factor is improve your handwriting and presentation skills. At the end of the day, it is the examiner who is going to be checking your answer script. And if your handwriting is messed up, if it is illegible, you might lose out on marks where you know the concept, but you have not been able to write it correctly. So the answer definitely needs to be readable. And how do we enhance our writing abilities? We read. We read actively. This enhances the vocabulary, improves the presentation skills because we see a lot of different skills, how other people have written, and it would improve our answering skills. We revise and re-revise. So we don't get marks if we study in the last month of the board exams. It has to be a continuous effort. It has to be a consistent effort, even if it is thoda thoda every day. So while we are revising, some parents say कि मैम मैं लिख के revise करवाता हूँ. I tell my child answer लिखो, पूरा answer लिखो. But that's very tedious, number one. It's very boring for a child. Why would a child want कि मैं एक पहले बैठ के अपना पूरा answer लिखूं, उसके बाद दूसरा लिखूं? You waste a lot of time. So what do? We use keywords when we are revising. And we have a keyword for which, I keep one keyword for a concept which I'm doing and I know the explanation. So when I'm revising, I remember just the keywords so that when I'm writing the answer quickly, I can remember what it is. Then we use different colored pens for highlighting. For example, in an answer, when I'm reading from a book, I could be using a red, a pink, blue, green, whichever yellow colored highlighter, because that stays in the motor memory much longer than just rote reading and learning. Be consistent and have a planner to assess your progress. Let's say your plan is not working. Do not give up. You change the plan. Trust you me, if you change the plan as per what you need, it definitely works. In the classroom, once you have identified your area of difficulty, whether it is concept clarity or it is the application skills, you take help from the teachers accordingly. Be alert in the classroom. Half the problem happens when, we get children who are stressed out at the board exams, ki ma'am, my files are not complete, my assignment booklets are not complete. So we need to have a ready reckoner where you need to keep noting down the deadlines of assignments and what all you need for completing a project. This would definitely avoid the last minute glitches. Be consistent and persistent in your approach towards the class. Most important is keep taking notes in the classroom, which is so important because what the teacher speaks is not what is written in the book. She has more knowledge than you and she would explain it in a different manner. So immediately don't write the full page, but keywords. Again, keywords, you have to keep taking notes in the class, which will be helpful in revising. So here are samples of how we can make a daily planner. So if you see, this is one which is for a daily schedule. It has got the time, and you can plan accordingly. Here is where you need to prioritize your studies. The to-do list has to be, first you write here the subjects which you are most difficult for you and where you're finding it difficult to handle. That you need to devote more time. So only studies is very boring. So we need to have some inspirational notes here to inspire us. I do that most of the time. Mama needs to know what's for dinner. And here is your notes for your friends' birthdays, for parties, for movies, which you want to watch. So here is one we can have a daily planner. And here is one where we need to have a weekly planner. So the weekly planner would know that on Monday, I have, let's say, my piano class. On Tuesday, I have something. On Wednesday, I have something, so on and so forth. So this is just a sample of how a planner can work. So then we come to the art of self-checking your progress. So this is a sample where this is a circle with so many different colored divisions. So I always recommend that have a circle in which there are 24 spokes, because in a day, there are 24 hours. So how do we assess our progress? Here is the sample of a child which we had. This child said, "Ki ma'am, I spend the whole day studying, but मेरी पढ़ाई फिर भी होती नहीं है." अगर आप ये sample देखेंगे, so effectively the number of hours for study 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Only 6 hours, 1 hour studying. After that, 2 or 3 hours was spent in the tuition. The blue indicates the time when the child had been sleeping, watching TV, etc., etc. So it is a self-check analysis which you really, really have to do to understand where you're going wrong and where you need to plug in. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation for the adolescents. So now there could be some other reasons also for the lack of performance, despite full input being given by the parents or by the tutors. And this can begin as early as class nursery or class prep. This is a sample of a child of class prep in which the teacher sent the notebook. Ma'am, this is how the child is writing. If you see, all the letters are mirror images, whether it is in the capital or it is in the small. And this is again a sample of class nursery, and this is of class prep or class 1. If you see, the numbers are not written within the lines. So I'm going to be presenting the case study of Anusha, who was brought to us, and the complaint was that she had incomplete classwork, poor concentration, no friends, lack of understanding, missing out on the PT classes as well. So Anusha's assessment was, this was when we started the assessment. And when we saw the child, if you see THE, she was reading TEN. WE was being read as ME, who was being read as MNO. So the child was actually seeing inverted. ये कमल है, what the child has written. Jha bhi ulta likha, la ulta likha, ra bola to wo da likha hua. So there was so many mistakes this child was making in the class, and that is why her copies were actually blank when we saw the notebooks. So what the final diagnosis and intervention was, she had a power of -5 in both the eyes. She had a lazy eye syndrome and acute dyslexia, lack of spatial orientation. So what was the intervention? We gave her glasses, the doctor gave her glasses for reading, patching of the one eye for the lazy eye syndrome. And for dyslexia, there was special education followed with occupational therapy. So now what the question the parents asked me were कि मैम पर इसको बाकी सब चीजें समझ आती हैं, इसको पिक्चर बहुत अच्छी समझ आती है, जोक्स बहुत समझ आते हैं, पढ़ाई करने के टाइम इसको क्या प्रॉब्लम होती है? So my answer to that I will explain in the next slide. So a child having a dyslexia could be having very good grasping power and yet be unable to write correctly. Orally, the concepts would be clear and the child would be able to answer. So let's do an activity. Let's try to read this passage. So if the unknown relation between the variable consists of a table of correspondence values, the graph consists of only of the corresponding set of isolated points. If the variables are known to vary continuously, it often draws a curve to show the variation. So this paragraph in itself, can you understand the meaning? Because I cannot. So a child with dyslexia would individually know the meanings of the words, but when told to read the whole paragraph, that is where the child would find it extremely difficult. So this is what we call as specific learning disability. When the school says कि assessment करा के आओ, इसको कोई learning disability तो नहीं है, इसको learning disability बोलते हैं. एक छोटा सा sample दिया है मैंने. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder which impedes the ability for a child to learn or use specific academic skills like reading, writing, or mathematics. So when we are doing intervention for children, we use a lot of clay work with them. If you see here there is a lot of, between the upper and the lower case, the child is confused and certain Y is inverted, not inverted, it's a mirror image. So this is after intervention that the child has started writing correctly with a lot of intervention. Of course, still the spacing is still not okay. And here is where the teacher has written it needs to come here. So this is a fun activity which we use to teach children how to, I don't know why this video is not working, learn phonetics and letters here. So through games, everything needn't be on a paper and pencil. And for children with learning disability, it's important not to have too much of 2D, and we have a lot of games and fun activities. Here is a child of class prep. If you see, the pencil grip is very good, but the handwriting is not very, it was not within the lines. So the child did not have the concept of lines, and the child did not have the concept of boundaries. So these are just some fun activities which we were doing to enhance the ability in the child to write. And we do one-on-one sessions with our children. So this is the case study of another Arjun. So now what does the teacher have to say? He's lazy, makes no effort, unmotivated, very slow, just does not want to work, always clowning around in the class, mixing with the wrong crowd, no respect for authority, and poor parenting. They need to teach him discipline. At the end of the day, it is the poor parents who are called, and they are the ones who are said that the child, they are not teaching their children anything. So teacher says, I can't give him so much of my time. So now he's not fit for the mainstream school. What does Arjun's parent have to say? Ma'am, he just doesn't listen to us. No interest in studies, argumentative, always on the internet, playing on the PSP. We don't like his friends. Company is very bad, disorganized, no sense of time. We've tried everything, but nothing is working. What will happen to him? We worry about him all the time. And let's see what Arjun has to say. I don't know why I am like this. I am different. My teachers hate me. My parents are ashamed of me. I do try, but it is as if something always controls my brain. I have so many interesting thoughts in my mind. The only people who understand me are my friends. It's always my fault. Sometimes I wish I was dead. And this is actually what poor Arjun had to say. So what do you think of Arjun? So I would say Arjun has ADHD, which is an attention deficit hyperactive disorder. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder, and generally it begins before the age of 7, and it can continue into adulthood. It is persistent and pervasive. So what are the areas? Here, there are 3 areas which are affected. One is inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. What are the signs of inattention? When the child constantly complains of incomplete classwork, tuning out, daydreaming, not listening to when spoken to directly, reluctance to engage in tasks requiring sustained mental effort like schoolwork, क्योंकि वो बैठ नहीं सकते बच्चे ADHD वाले, difficulty in remembering and following directions, forgetful in daily activities, loses things regularly. Poor Arjun's mama had bought 2 sets of books. One set she had kept in the school and one was at home. And at the end of the month, the mother would come to the school and collect everything. So she had 2 sets of belt, 2 sets of socks, and one day the child lost his shoes also. Difficulty in initiating and getting started to work. Now, what was hyperactive? Always on the move, allergic to the chair, fidgety, tapping feet, restless, has to touch everything, tendency to be noisy, loud, or talking excessively. Impulsivity is when the child has difficulty in waiting, in raising the hand and waiting to be called on, butts into conversations or games, blurts out answers before questions have been completed, cannot keep hands or feet to self, and wants things now, like he wants it now, abhi, abhi. I cannot wait for tomorrow. Now or not now. So if we see Arjun's rainbow, his language is very good, his IQ is very good, and if we see the attention is very, very low, and the other areas are extremely, extremely low. So how do we handle this? We handle this in a very holistic way. Emotional, because children with ADHD do not have too many friends, they end up fighting with everybody. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. So when sometimes it is so difficult to handle, we have to refer the child to a psychiatrist for medication. Social cultural, again, it involves the entire community because it's a holistic handholding which we have to do. Infrastructure, the teachers play a very important role. And spiritual, definitely meditation, yoga, etc. are very helpful. So whether it is an emotional problem or it is any psychological or it is an academic problem, the approach needs to be holistic in nature. And like I said, this is where we help in assessment and evaluation, intervention, psychotherapy, counseling, academic remediation, teacher training, parent training, and so on. So here is such a cute child who I loved this picture. And I told his mom that I'll be using his picture because she used to send him to me to study at the time when he just didn't want to study. And promptly when he came to me, he would go off to sleep because he just didn't want to study. And he was a very bright kid, very, very bright kid. Only thing was that he didn't know Hindi that well. So Mama felt ki no, you must teach him Hindi. So I had to take this picture to show her ki please don't send him during his sleep time. And this is his drawing which he made, which is so good. So here is where a sample of the teacher training, which we do in different schools. And you can connect with me on my website, which is turningpoint.net.in. For individual sessions, you can this is my number, 97161-40635. Sekhon Deepinder@yahoo.in is my email ID. I can be connected on Zoom as well as Skype. And you can follow me on Instagram on my handle. And you can look me up on Google as well at Turning Point LLP. And do follow my Facebook page at Turning Point. So finally, I would say thank you very much for being patient listeners. And remember, pause, understand, listen, assess, and be open-minded. Give your child the wings to fly. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mahesh.
That was a great presentation. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure many of our participants would have enjoyed it too. Let's take some questions. We have quite a lot of questions.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the first question I have is that my child has a fear of physics numericals due to fear of mathematics. What do you suggest for that parent?
So if that's a very good question and a very important question because physics and mathematics are very closely related with each other. So what I would suggest to the parents is if we go back to the slide where I had shown the different strategies for, improving. See, it is either the concept which is not clear or it is the application of the concept which is not clear. So per se, physics could be a very interesting topic for the child, but because he's having difficulty in mathematics, and that is why he is not able to apply the nuances to physics. So what I would suggest is that you go back to the maths tutor or you sit with your child if you're good in mathematics and understand that is it the concepts which are lacking? If it is the concepts which are lacking, please go to the base of the concepts which the child is lacking. So once those are clear, it would automatically transfer better into the physics as well. I hope that answers the question, Mr. Mahesh.
Yes. I have another question.
Yeah.
So I am a single parent. I have two children. I get frustrated and irritated when it comes to their studies. And how do I manage them?
Well, yes, that is a very tough call for a single parent. So, I would suggest that if you're a single parent, you need to involve your child into, or both your children into assisting you at home, number one. Number two, as a parent, my advice to you would be don't lose heart. You are not the only one who, is in that boat. There are a lot of single parents who are in the boat. I hope you have somebody with whom you can connect to, with whom you can share your burden with. So it's important for you to be mentally at peace. It's important for you to be mentally happy. And you need to start taking your children along with you in your journey in helping you sort out your things. And that in itself is going to be of a lot of help. So don't take too much burden on yourself. I would say don't be too hard on yourself. Take it easy. Children are most receptive and they find a way to be helpful to the parents if we want to take their help. So you don't have to win everything. You can be there with the children, but take care of yourself first.
Okay. Then I have a question for you. Children are shy. How do we make them open up? This is a teacher asking a question. Our students are shy. How do we make them open up?
I would suggest group activities. So for children who are shy, so what we generally do is we always tell the teachers that whenever there is a concept, have a group activity in which you have the child presenting the entire theme. And I'll give you a small example. For example, if we have to teach water cycle, so let the teacher explain the water cycle and divide the entire class into different teams and give different topics of the water cycle to each team. Have one team leader, and that team leader needs to be a smart child. And the others, so the team leader has to be assigned the duty to explain the concept to the children. So let it be a presentation, and the teacher has to mark the class on the skills based on the entire group, not only for the child. So if this kind of an activity is done, gradually children start opening up and they get the confidence. Most of the time, a child would feel shy because of the fear that he is being judged, or he doesn't know if what he's saying is correct or not. So group activity is a good mechanism or a way in which we, help our children. I hope that answers.
Yes. Then I have a question for you. A child is very brilliant in studies, yet is very anxious and has a fear of failure.
Has a fear of failure. Is it that, again, I am sorry, a parent may not like this answer, but is it that the expectations are too high by the parent? Or is it that the child's expectations are too high by himself? So this anxiety needs to be brought down and it needs to be understood. The child needs to be given this reassurance. It's okay. But as a parent, first you need to understand and identify why the anxiety is there. Is there a fear of failure? Is there a fear of not getting enough marks? So there has to be some underlying fear in the child for the anxiety. That needs to be understood very tenderly by the parents.
Okay. So we have a question which says parental expectations are very high and students feel suffocated and pressurized. How can we help them?
This question has come from whom? A parent or a teacher?
Looks like a parent or a teacher. I would guess this is from a school.
So it is, if it is from a school, then the teachers need to talk to the parents. See, it is, this question is a very good question and an important question because parental expectation is very high right from class nursery. Right from, like I said, I was into teaching. So when you're in nursery, the parents expect that the child has to be participating in all the events of the classroom, whether it is a dance competition, music competition. So the parents need to be spoken to be realistic. And a counseling session for the parents is what is required. So if there are schools which are listening here, so we do have sessions for parents for them to realize what adolescence is all about and what realistic expectations are about. So here I would say that parenting counseling is extremely important.
Then I have a question that my child takes a lot of time to finish a particular topic in class and is interested only in mathematics and robotics, but not in languages and other subjects.
Well, I would say it again depends on, 2, 3 factors. One is that I have just shown you that slide of learning disability. That is just a very small sample. There is a huge umbrella which is covered under it. If a child is orally able to answer the questions, that means that if there is a concept of English, Hindi, science, math, whatever, and orally you ask him, the child is doing extremely well. But the moment the child is told कि बेटा इसको बैठ के आंसर को लिखो, वो वहां पे जाके गड़बड़ करता है कि नहीं मुझे नहीं लिखना. So here is a mismatch between the thinking process and between what the child is writing. So you need to be sure that the child has understood what he is doing. Maths does not require too much of reading. Robotics does not require too much of reading. It requires a lot of intelligence. So that means intelligence is there, but is it that the child is genuinely having some difficulty? So I would suggest, you can have an informal assessment of the child to understand. If that is not the case, then maybe the child is not understanding the concepts in the class.
And as a follow-up question, the child is very slow through a particular subject or through a particular chapter.
So if the parent is teaching the child, then the parent can understand कि उसको concept समझ आ रहे हैं कि नहीं आ रहे. अगर बच्चे को concept समझ आ रहा है और बच्चा जो है answer orally बता रहा है और लिख नहीं पा रहा, तो बच्चे को एक assessment और evaluation की definitely ज़रूरत है to understand why the child is not doing.
Then what is the role of mathematics teacher for weaker students?
To make it more interesting. To teach in a fun way in which the child can understand through activities.
And on the activity, it says that children are not opening up in spite of group activity unless it is made compulsory.
Unless it is made compulsory, the child is not opening up on a group activity. So, there are a couple of questions which I would like to ask. Is it a particular child? Is it 2, 3 children? And what are the other parameters which are there? I mean, is the child making an eye contact? Is the child, does he or she have the communication skills? Does he or she have friends in the class? So all these questions need to be answered because there could be an underlying factor which needs to be assessed. Or maybe the child is only scared. In which class is the child?
I don't have, I think this is a follow-up to the question, how do you open up shy children?
Yeah. Okay.
And we have a question, what do I do to reduce his or her addiction with the phone or Instagram?
That is $1 million question, which every parent is looking for an answer. So I will again like to go back on this slide. So you need to do a self-assessment check. The child needs to do the self-assessment check of the 24 hours. See, it's a common problem. You don't have to yell, scream, and shout at your child because that is exactly what most of the adolescents are doing. But in order to check, self-check, self-analysis, कितने घंटे मैं मोबाइल पे जा रहा हूँ, this is very, very important. And making a schedule where the child would also himself or herself understand where is it that the other things are fitting into. So it's a self-realization, number one. And slowly the child should take ownership of how he or she will reduce the Insta time and reduce the mobile time. See, this is a very, very important activity which we do when we teach the parents or we teach, in fact, the children. This one important question which a lot of kids told me was कि ma'am, schedule का कोई फायदा नहीं है, schedule बनाने का, कि वो तो follow नहीं होता. So the point is, अगर आप ये एक self check रखेंगे और आप एक consistency maintain करेंगे, it will definitely work. So this is one strategy which I'm suggesting to the parents.
So we have some questions which continue to come. One is, you referred about assessment. What are the results of assessments?
The result of assessment is an error analysis report. So the assessment tells us, A, currently what is the level of the child. Supposing a child has come to me for assessment who's in class 4. So when I do the assessment, I would understand that actually are the skills of the child in class 4, or are the skills of the child beyond that or lesser than that, number one. Second is, I would be able to do an analysis of exactly why the errors are being made. So there are multiple ways or reasons why errors could be made, and these are all standardized tools which are being used. So it's an error analysis where we come to know the current level, functioning level, and we come to know the areas of difficulty so that the intervention can be planned accordingly.
Wonderful. So my child's max teacher told my child that Max is not a dinosaur. My child has got afraid. What do you say on this?
Oh, the teacher needs to clarify that what she meant was that it is not a dinosaur. You don't have to be afraid of it. So the child, the teacher needs to clarify this to the child, and the parent has to be supportive. I'm sure this is a very young child and a small child. So the mama can use YouTube and use other techniques to show to the child that maths is only fun with numbers. It has nothing to do with the dinosaur. मैम ने ऐसे ही बोला होगा आपको समझाने के लिए कि डायनासोर से डरते
I
नहीं.
would read it that the teacher would have said that, don't be afraid of mathematics. It's not a dinosaur, right?
Mr. Mahesh, young children cannot differentiate between imagination and reality, na?
Yes.
So for very small children, he would have got scared in any case. I do understand what the teacher would be trying to say. Yeah.
So we have a question, what if the child refuses to make the schedule?
Like I said, what if the child refuses to make the schedule? So this is for the parents that, see, you cannot force anybody to do anything. First of all, we can't force ourselves. If somebody was to tell me forcefully to do something, I will never do it unless and until I take ownership of it and I take responsibility of it. So the child has to take ownership, and you cannot force it on the child. Your wordings have to be very, very different for the child to take ownership. So once the child makes the schedule on his or her own, taking the ownership, it will work and the child would be ready to work. So what we do in that case is we also tell the child ki ek baar try karte hain, let's try for some time and let's see how you want it. So let's give him the reins of his life where he can feel ki nahi, meri marzi se ban raha hai.
Okay, so one of the questions which we have is, how can I make my child study Hindi? Surprisingly, she is least interested in it. She has just quit on Hindi.
Okay, so again in Hindi, we need to understand, the parent needs to understand, where is the child having difficulty? Is it the formation of the letters? क्योंकि अगर लेटर फॉर्मेशन में दिक्कत आ रही है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे साउंड सिमिलर होते हैं हिंदी और इंग्लिश के, मात्रास आर वेरी डिफिकल्ट. सो वी यूज फ्लैश कार्ड्स एंड वी यूज क्ले. We can use fun ways of starting Hindi from the basics. I mean, if the child is in second, third, fourth, I really don't know which class, but then we will have to start from the basics, because that fear of Hindi has to come out and the boredom of Hindi has to come out. That's exactly what I showed you, the last picture of that slide where my friend's son didn't want to do Hindi. So I had to use a lot of activities to make him interested in Hindi.
So I would request the person who's asked this question that post this session, you please feel free to be in touch with Deepinder and take it forward. Okay. And the parent says she's in grade 10.
Oh, grade 10. What about other subjects?
Yeah, I think she should get in touch with you, would be my recommendation, yes. Deepinder.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Then we have a question, how do we assess a child who has a learning disability?
You need to go to a professional. So I am doing assessments. If you are somewhere near, you are most welcome. I'm in Gurgaon. Otherwise, you go to the nearest hospital, wherever you are.
Yeah, or you could get in touch with Deepinder, again, is what I would say. Okay. And take it forward. She does have sessions and she would be able to help you out. And then we have a question from Tina, who's asking, is it fine if students of class 12 refer to YouTube and Google for their projects?
Yes, it is. It's a way of, like I said, there are multiple ways in which, you can understand and you can see things. And it's for see, at the end of the day, the project the child has to write on her own.
Yes.
It is not copying from YouTube. It is only for understanding concepts.
Yeah. And I would say give my perspective on this is that any tool, if you look at YouTube or Google as a tool, teaching tool or a learning tool, it should be perfectly fine as long as it's able to help the child do better.
See, one thing which needs to be told to the children, that plagiarism is a crime, and the
Yes.
marks can get deducted for it.
Yes,
So
especially if you are in IB has very strict policies on plagiarism.
yes, so the
Okay.
child has to be told this very categorically of the consequences.
So one of the things is that use citation, cite your sources is what I would say if you are
Yeah,
doing a report or an essay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And again, a general question, can you give us some tips on how to overcome anxiety?
Find the root cause. Why is it that you are getting anxious? It's so important to first identify why that anxiety is happening. There could be multiple reasons. If you feel you are not able to do it, write it on a piece of paper. Once you have identified the reason, you will automatically get your answers whether you need to be even anxious about something, because 99% of the times we have things in our head which are actually not that relevant to be anxious about. Otherwise, I'm always there for help. A few deep breathing exercises if there is general anxiety. Walk reduces a lot of anxiety. So these are some of the tips.
So one of the questions is, our child is 12 years old, has learning disability, slow in almost everything, very less friends, comfortable with younger kids than of her age, phobia of height and insects, etc.
So what is the question?
So what would be your recommendation?
Well, I would say that I'm sure that if it's a diagnosed case of learning disability, if there is fear of height and if there is fear of other things, occupational therapy is something which would be highly recommended for the child, because I'm sure the handwriting would also be affected. So for learning disability, see, a holistic approach is very, very important. So I would also say collaborating with the school. I don't know which is the class in which the child is. If they can connect with me directly, I can give them multiple ways in which we can collaborate with the school, in which I can tell the parents how to handle the child, because this needs to be addressed in a very, very holistic manner, where the school, the parents, the tutor, the OT, etc. need to be involved.
Yes.
I hope that answers the question.
Please give us some methods to improve concentration.
Which class is it?
No
Or
idea.
in general? Okay, in
Yes.
general, I would say, apart from the faulty study time and the reading time, try to have a fresh mind when your child is studying. Try to sit in an area where there is least distraction. Try to keep all the electronic gadgets away when you are studying, and have a study time of about 40 minutes, then take a break. Unrealistically, telling the children to sit for 6 to 7 hours is not the answer, because our brain is not tuned to sit down for so long to study.
So we have exceeded our time, but we are happy to take a few more questions for our audience today, because I think the topic has been very interesting and a lot of good questions have come up. So I'm going to keep it open for a few more minutes. Okay, so one of the questions which I'm taking, Deepinder, is the child class 8 is very brilliant in studies and very diligent as well. But she sleeps very less because she keeps thinking about her studies too much.
So here the parents have a role to play, that the parents need to communicate and talk a lot to the child, because she must be having some underlying fear of her exams or of the marks or of the results. So I would strongly recommend talk, communicate with your child to understand why she is, so scared, and what is it which is bothering her. communicate with her, talk to her. Only then will you come to know why, she's so obsessed with her studies.
Yes. So one question is how to engage students, especially in a language subject like English.
How to engage? I'm
Yes.
not able to understand this question. If they could rephrase it.
Yes. So I think what I would think, I'm assuming, I should not be, but I'm assuming is that they want on how do kids handle languages better.
How do kids handle languages better? So there are multiple ways of doing languages. These days you get so many books which are there on improving. I would assume maybe they are asking that how to improve the language skills of the child.
Yes.
So it is, again, Mr. Mahesh, I would give one strong recommendation to all the parents that bookish knowledge is always not through certain formats. There
Yes.
are so many books available which the children can use in multiple ways, in fun ways, to enhance their language skills and their vocabulary. All you have to do is search for it, whatever topic is lacking and whichever area you are lacking in.
So one of the questions is that how do I improve my confidence in mathematics, because I'm always afraid that I got my questions wrong.
First
This is
is,
a class 11th student.
so the class 11 student needs to understand for his or her own thought process, is it that your answers are always wrong? If your answers are not wrong, then you have your answer that A, your answers are correct, you know the concepts, and you have to get the fear out of your mind. So half the problems happen to students because of underlying fears which they have of not clearing the exams, of not being doing well. So if the answers are all correct, then the child, just to boost up the confidence, can revise and re-revise and then needs to concentrate on other subjects. So the child has to get that confidence in himself or herself. अगर answers सही हैं तो उसको डरने की तो कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. अगर answers सही नहीं है, that is when the child needs to then work, whether it's the concept or the application which is not being understood, and he will get his answers. See,
So
it has a lot to do with the person's mindset also, and maths is a subject where everybody is very fearful of. So I would say a lot of practice would also enhance the self-confidence in the child.
A question for you, Deepinder. My son.
Pardon?
Wait. Yeah, my son is in class 2, and it seems he's like Arjun. He's good at oral skills, but when it comes to writing, he struggles to write and even read. We need to sit with him continuously and ask him to complete the work. What should we do?
He needs an evaluation.
So my suggestion would be, please connect with Deepinder and have your child evaluated. Then we have a question, being a teacher, how should we engage students in learning the English language? Could you suggest any activity?
I will suggest a very, very brilliant activity. For example, direct to indirect speech, if we have to teach, that is one concept which is very difficult for children to understand. I myself have been doing a lot of remediation. So a group activity can be done is that there can be 4 people. There could be 2 persons who are talking to each other. So when I am talking, A is talking to B, that is the direct speech which is happening. And C and D can be asked, what is it that these children have said? That would be the reported speech. So this is just an example of how we can teach a concept of language to children.
Okay, we have a question. My child has been diagnosed as a case of ASD. My child will not concentrate, 9-year-old. He will not concentrate in class, has very sharp memory. He will not complete classwork, even no interest in computers, cricket and gadgets. Please guide us what to do.
I hope the parents are taking the child for therapy, because ASD, a lot of areas are affected in ASD. And the child would need proper intervention from an occupational therapist, from a behavior therapist, and for social skills training. If all this is already being addressed to, then I feel the parents need to connect with me or with any therapist, whoever they are in touch with, to find out A, the areas where the child is further lacking, and B, how to overcome. So for the parents, if they are not availing any therapy, they need to understand that communication and social skills of children with autism are highly impaired, and it has to be handled in a very different manner. Expecting the normal behavior from a child with ASD would be a little difficult for the child, and the parents need to understand this.
So this would be the last question I would take, and Deepinder has already shared her contacts, and you can connect with PeopleBridge if you have not taken her contact. So the last question for the day is: my child is a class topper, very creative, writes stories, poems, paintings, but is not interested in going outdoors to play. Is this normal?
Come again?
So the child is a topper, very brilliant in most activities, but is not at all interested in outdoor activities.
Which class is the child in?
Not mentioned, Deepinder.
So this is definitely not normal now, Mr. Mahesh. For
Yes.
any child
Class
not to
8.
be,
Class 8.
no. This is definitely not normal. The parents need to understand, and the parents need to know. They need to talk to the child, where the child is and why the child is behaving the way the child is behaving. This is definitely not normal. This is not normal.
Okay. Thank you, Deepinder. Thank you, participants. We hope you have enjoyed this session as much as we have. A lot of learning involved in us, a lot of learning involved in it for us as well. And like I mentioned, PeopleBridge has been hosting this series of very wonderful topics. We have our next one next week, which would be on confluence of education. We would have a panel of 3 speakers. So do join us when you have the registration link available, and keep participating, keep typing your areas of interest where you would like us to focus on, and we will work towards delivering those kind of sessions for you. And like I said to you again, feel free to reach out to Deepinder and contact with her, and I'm sure all your children will see improvement. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Deepinder, on behalf of PeopleBridge team. It was a wonderful session and very interactive. And also, I would like to thank all the participants also for making a wonderful audience. And they keep the session going throughout and ask some wonderful questions. I wish we had so much of knowledge, let me put it that way, at some point in time when the kids were growing up. So thank you so much, ma'am, once again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Amrita.
Hope to see you. And we also hope to host you soon on some other platform also, and look forward to it.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And a special message to Mr. Balbir Singh. I hope you enjoyed your daughter's session today.
I will just have to unmute him. Sorry, I will have to unmute him. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I am very much impressed, actually. I don't know where she got all the intelligence. She didn't inherit it from me.
Thank you.
Okay, God bless you all.
Thank you, Uncle. Thank you, Uncle, for being with us.
And again, I would say, please stay safe while we are coming out of the lockdown. Wherever you are, maintain social distancing. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. Thank you, Mr. Amrita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.